Hey, dude, what's
Dude,
up?
I'm wearing my
You got a FinGoal shirt?
Yeah, you are. I love it.
purple pearl snap because
Purple's
yeah, yeah,
purple's good enough, man. Yeah,
yeah.
we do purple Fridays. So everybody at the company wears purple on Fridays.
Love it.
But I'm probably like half the time. Yeah, it's
On
just
the
it's
inside.
it's it's a lot.
It's on the inside, right
Yeah,
here.
there you go.
That's right. Cool. I think the last time that we did one of these, you guys were not in the same room.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so I love it. I love seeing you guys there. I'm excited to see you guys at
Um,
Roundup.
right.
Yeah, man, we're looking forward to it. I've had buddies reaching out, asking, where along the way should I stop and get barbecue? I'm like, Salt Lake,
Duh.
obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
everybody, it's a whole adventure, We get to go and cruise through the hill country, and I'm looking forward to going to Lukenbach.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drink like as many beers as they'll let me, the usual.
Yeah. So they throw you in jail or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Looking like
it's a
jail.
it's a low standard.
Yeah.
It's built for people
Exactly
like me.
right.
Yeah,
And that chicken walking around.
that's right. That's right. All right, dude. So what are we gonna call this? Is this like a special report?
It is.
Breaking news.
I think it is.
All right, cool. Well, tell us what we're talking about.
Well, I'll tell you what. Two topics that I think are like kind of the topic of the day is the 1031,
1033.
1033, sorry. And then we also have, the AI experience that everybody is just tuning into, which is kind of shocking. We were talking about that just a minute ago about how people don't seem to know what's going on until then. Oh my God,
Everybody's talking about it.
it's the Super Bowl next week. And it's like
Yeah.
they've been playing football for months.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But
It's a
1033
great analogy.
open banking. And tell me if you think I'm crazy. I've been telling this story to bankers as we're talking about it, and I'm making the point that every banker is familiar with a data conversion, be it bill
Yeah.
pay or online banking or core or 100 other things. And it's like basically 1033 and open banking is allowing a user to request to do a conversion, take all the data out, except we're going to do it in real time to whatever third party apps may be asking for this. So I think today we're going to try and find the good news. Hopefully David
Yeah.
has that. I'm a little spotty on the good news here. But I think there is an opportune time, right? We have a moment in time where there's going to be a heck of an opportunity as they cascade, or we think they're going to cascade the required timing, right? So the big
Yep.
banks have to open up, and there's going to be probably a flood to fintechs coming out of that, right? And embedded finance and brands and everything else. And that's definitely an opportunity for community banks on the sponsor side.
Right.
But David's the data expert, so
So we wanted to pull you in today and get really into the soup to nuts part of this thing. And for the bankers out there, what we're really looking at, we had a big meeting this morning and talked about this. It's so interesting that we all know that the big banks are scared of fintech because when you got 80% of the accounts, I mean, it kind of stands to reason anything that takes accounts is going to hurt you worse than a small community bank. Small community bank, yeah, I lost three guys to chime. Who gives a shit? Well, to that same proportionality is the difference between profitable and not profitable for some of the mega banks. Maybe overstated, but you get
very
the idea.
retail focused too.
Yeah, it's going to hurt, and they're concerned with that. And so it's kind of like somebody said, "Look, we're going to start a race." Like they put this guy halfway through the curve, the other guy's all the way to straightaway. Well, you get to be the guy in straightaway. You get to start last. Okay, which gives you this advantage in time. So they're going to make the big banks open, right, with 1033, similar to what Europe is with an open banking concept that a customer could say, hey, I want to move my money to Coca-Cola
or Pepsi.
Yep. And then they hit JP Morgan and they pull their information over. Fair enough assessment, right? Now, this opportunity for small bankers to be the people that are partnering with fintech and pulling these things in here faster over the next few years before they're even required to do it is an opportunity. Unfortunately, we're in a climate right now where if you say the word BaaS and fintech, people are like, ugh. When what this meeting is about today is to shake the hell out of you and say, wake up. This is your moment. This is your moment. Forget the climate, forget the regulatory burden, forget all the rest of this, and just see this as an opportunity and examine it fully and say yay or nay.
They've made the decision. I heard this a couple of days ago, and I thought it was well said that community banking has been where we spread out risk, right? Traditionally.
Yeah.
And if you looked back to even 10 years ago, everybody looked at fintech as challengers And I think now we have to look at that as from a regulatory perspective, that friend or foe question has been answered. These people are going to get to play and they're going to knock down the walls of banking to allow them to play on behalf of a consumer. So I think the sort of the pointing fingers and picking battles is over. This is coming and it's coming in a big way.
That's exactly right. It's a waste of effort to fight a battle that's already over, right? Don't relitigate the past, right? It's like if you broke up with your ex, the breakup is over. Don't keep running through that in your head. It's gone, guys. Like move on to what's to your new life. Like delete Facebook, hit the gym and go take care of yourself, right? And now we're talking about how you take care of yourself so that you can bring in what's new and fresh to grow your bank with what's in the future. You know, forget the past, right? Even if you didn't love the way that it happened, right? You're still here now. How do you plan for the future, right? So that this next 20, 30 years, how's this next generation of banks going to grow and be great and stay independent?
Will you give the 10-second version for a banker of what the heck is the relationship between fintechs, data, Plaid, right? If I had never looked at all of that and don't know what's going on, what does that world look like and how does that let us here?
Yeah, sure. So for years, the Plaids of the world have made it available so that any end user consumer can give Plaid their name and password to their bank. And then Plaid would go and log into your bank front end on behalf of the customer and scrape data from it to then push it to some new application. And we first saw it with like Quicken and Mint, and then TurboTax started doing it. And then now we see like Venmo and Chime and Walmart and HEB, and you're seeing it in all these other places. And it's not just consumer too, right? QuickBooks does this, right? Invoicing software does this. So anyway, but that's broadly kind of where the industry's been.
Yep. Perfect. And I think as we look at the 1033, and we're in a comment period till let's call it fall, right? And we'll figure out what the shakeout looks like. But as for what we know today,
then it gets shoved down your throat.
Right. Essentially the general thinking. And so I think it's important to note too, what the big banks did in response to this, they started pushing back on the Plaid world, pushing the anti-scraping narrative, which isn't a bad point. I'm reasonably in agreement.
Yeah.
But as they pushed on that narrative, they spun up things like Akoya, which was their own large bank data sharing network. Kind of smells like another Zelle for those of us that are right. And so that's all evolving. At the same time, we've got 1033 and CFPB and everything kind of in this gray, interesting area of what's going to be opened up and when. Fair?
Right. That's exactly right. And so what 1033 currently in draft, but published and in the comment period is saying is like banks over the period of the next 4 years after the rules are published, big banks going first and then down by asset size, but the end of it is 4 years. You need to have a digital, safe way for your consumer customers to take their data out of your system within seconds and move it into wherever the consumer wants it to go. And there's some rules around security about where it goes. But from the banker's perspective, you need to be able to prove that that user is who they say they are and then make their data available in seconds.
And so this goes back to my point on conversion. Like for all of us bankers that have done conversions, we're going to go take our own customers and be able to do real-time conversions to what is probably competitive with our bank in real time, and that's going to be forced on us. And we're trying to find the silver lining today.
And don't be surprised if this is offered by your core.
Sure. Yeah, I think core and the digital banking providers will be the shipment layers. But look at
can we take a step and have Dave explain Akoya?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So Akoya was, and Zelle's a great comparison. So you got a bunch of the big guys getting together to fund a new company that is a gateway to if a Plaid or a consumer wants to get their data out of any of the big banks. And the big banks were trying to charge for access to that data. They said, okay, instead of scraping me, I want to get paid. This is my data. The user's going to take it. I at least want to get something for that. I want to get some toll. Part of what the CFPB just said is that's generally not okay. There's a couple of exceptions to it, but generally speaking, that model does not work. Fair enough, right? But all it does mean is that the data is now open. Like that horse is not coming back in the barn, folks, right? It's happening. And, I think I spoke to a lot of community bankers over the past week, and most of them were confused, curious, and a little bit scared, if I'm being honest, right? I don't mean like they're shaking in their boots yet, but it's there. It's in their eyes. But there are a couple, right? The clever ones are seeing this as an opportunity to go on the offensive, right? To bring on new customers, number one, and so that they're the ones taking the business from the competitor, whether the competitor is big, small, challenger, or Chase, doesn't matter. They're going after them. And then going a step further and also identifying, because now that the bank is a party to the data leaving, the bank now has visibility to where the data is going and who's taking it. That's incredibly valuable, right? So imagine if you look at your most profitable customers and you get an alert saying that the bank across town just took data, just got data that customer just permissioned to them. Right. Well, you're going to pick up the phone that day, right? You're going to call that customer and just see how they're doing, aren't you? Right? But you have to be on the offense to do that. You have to be thinking about it strategically and how you're going to turn this into a profit center to grow your bank rather than just like another thing that the regulators are making you pay for.
Is it fair to say, in your opinion, and I'm of this opinion, I think you are too, that the last handful of years, this topic has been death by 1,000 cuts on the bank side, probably stuff that like you might not even feel or notice. I have tons of conversations with banks where I'm like, what's your biggest outflow, right? Money being transferred out to a third party. What's the biggest one? And they're like, right? Never even thought to ask the question. And I mean, I guarantee you if this was 18 months ago, the answer was probably Coinbase.
Right.
Right.
It was.
And there was a moment in time there, to your point, of maybe an opportunity if you wanted to play there and be competitive. Other things like P2P and Zelle, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think to your point, it's, if nothing else, a great opportunity to drive your own roadmap and see where the holes in the boat are, where people are leaving and going to. Likewise, that outflows theme gives you a good idea of what's going on. But you would much rather be the inflow guy, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. But so imagine you're a bank president and you're going to your board and you're saying, "Hey, we have a lot of high net worth families in our bank, and we are concerned about the generational flow of that wealth over the next 10 to 15 years." Mm-hmm. And you say to the board, you want to invest in some things, some people, some technology to be relevant to the next generation of those families. And you can show to your board where those deposits are slowly starting to move to robo-advisors or moving out of your institution, right? And now you can use those same metrics of where it's going and where the data is being connected as the leading indicators of whether your success, whether the strategy is working over the next 3 years of implementing it, right? Now you've got a data-driven strategy that isn't rocket science to deploy. It just takes some thinking. It takes taking a step back, take a deep breath, not being afraid, right? And asking yourself, who do you want to be as a bank 15 years from now? And how do you want to serve the next generation of your customers, right? And yeah.
If you see this happening in your bank, let's say I employ, software like yours, and I've got this visibility now, is there anything that this money going out of the system or going out of the banks going to, is that a place where bankers can't compete?
Not usually. I mean, usually you can compete, right? And that's where the BAS comes in, right? Is that often as a sponsor bank, I'm doing your pitch for you guys, but as a sponsor bank, and you don't need to sponsor 50,000 high-risk little fintechs doing weird shit, right? It's for your community that you already know how to deal with this type of money, these types of transactions, these types of use cases. It's just not happening in the four walls of you anymore, right? It's happening someplace else. And that's okay. That's going to happen, y'all, right? That's just the reality. But you still have the license. You still have the expertise in what you do in being a bank. And software is not going to replace being a bank. But you have to be there partnering with the folks that are embedding those banking services in what they do, right? And that's the game.
You're saying the charter is more important and more valuable than ever, but a lot of the things that a typical banker thinks about and does are not the most charter-centric activities, right? And so it's like, get back to the charter-specific stuff and leverage it in a different way, and it's hugely profitable.
One more question. Okay. All these outflows of monies, which has already happened in Europe. There hadn't been a new bank over there in ages, but there's a lot of new fintechs. When these monies leave bankers of all sizes, and go to these companies, fintech companies, isn't there a bank behind them that's a winner? Every single one of them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right. You know the answer to that. And the question is, as a bank president, you're asking yourself, why not you? Right? What makes their charter any better than yours?
I mean, who's behind Chime? Who's behind Rocket Mortgage? Who's behind HEB? Home Depot, right? Okay. And we're seeing that shift in a big way right now, y'all, to merchants, brands. I tell everybody, just you could say S&P 500 if you wanted to, but just drive down the highway and see all of the logos along the side of the highway. Those guys are all banked by somebody, and they want to offer a debit card, a checking account, a savings account. And this just makes that easier for them to do, and they're going to do it with somebody. Why not you? And my last of my soapbox, if those are your commercial clients and you can't offer them the ability to issue their own debit card, checking, and savings, somebody else will, and your whole commercial relationship is at stake.
Is at risk. This is a defensive play.
I agree.
But at the same time, in our meeting today, what we talked about is there's bankers that are going to say, we got 4 years to worry about this, which is another way of saying you got 4 years before you're done.
Before you get beat up.
Okay. Because as you mentioned already, there's going to be winners behind all of this, right? And since you can see where the money's going and what activity is really happening there, it's almost like a roadmap of where you need to go fast fintech wise, right? And that's
exactly right.
We help with, bankers help and bankers helps with. But here's the point. If you do nothing and just wait for the 4 years to slide by,
it's not pretty.
It's the other people that have said, okay, I can't really throw a curveball yet, but I've got a glove, and I got a pair of cleats and a hat. All right, walk your ass out there and get around people that can teach you how to play this ball game.
Yeah, doing nothing is probably a death knell on this one.
And yeah, this is not. I like the way Tanner said that too. That this is a defensive play. When you get down to it and you sit there and you walk out this, just kind of think through it in your own head, and you're going to go, okay, so if I don't get active in this area, others are going to be actively approaching not just my consumers, they're going after my businesses now.
Bingo.
That is the key to the whole thing. And so that's a really good reason.
And I don't think it's 4 years. I think I have run into in the last month a bunch of banks taking commercial clients from others, and the others don't know what happened.
Yeah.
You're going to be shocked in the next 18 months what goes on there. The next 4 years, I mean, come on. That's like time travel. It's way out there. I have a question for Nohe that's very important. Do you feel like the smartest guy in town? Because I feel like I want to brag about just like saying he's been smart. Like I've been saying for years, I'm like, this guy's really smart. He knows his stuff. Just wait. Yeah. You got to look like the smartest guy in town right now.
I don't know. I don't know about that, man. I'll tell you, I'll just throw it back. One of the reasons that I'm stoked about coming out, one of the reasons I'm stoked about being at Roundup is I love not being the smartest person in the room. And that is a great room that I know I'm not the smartest person. Right. I'm often not the smartest person at the table, and they're like 8 tops. And I freaking love that, man, because it is a room of the best thinkers in this business. And that's why we go.
Well, I think you're going to be super popular this year because every topic within this whole vein is stuff that you've been preaching for years. And I think had everybody listened more, not to say you haven't had a lot of success, because you have, but I think you were more right than certainly everybody else knew, maybe even more right than you knew. Right. Looking back at the world just unfolded the way that you saw it, man. And so you're in just a wicked good spot to be a helper. And I think it's awesome. Good for you.
You know what? I'm not going to say that it was like, we didn't predict the future. We got lucky in some ways, right? I'm going to be like, it's like, okay, it could go one of 5 ways. Which one are we best situated to attack? And let's hope it happens that way. Right. But that's literally how it occurred. Right. But it's like, I'm an Orioles fan. I bet on the Orioles last offseason to win the division. It was like 700 to 1 odds. I'm buying drinks this week. But it's like, okay, well, we had like 5 to 1 odds. Let's go. Right. And great. It panned out,
It's awesome.
Yeah. You're definitely the guy in the right spot. So if, again, kind of directly to the banker guys out there, there's an opportunity zone right now. This is something and I coach this all the time to people, that there's players out there like BHB and other places that they do this for free. They coach you, they teach you, they help you get at least to a vocabulary understanding of what the hell's going on. There's others out there that are trying to charge you money and screw you up and get you all confused and make this really confusing.
Don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's not super confusing when you get right down to it.
Yeah.
There's 1 or 2 pieces to it that have a little bit of designation. Okay, let's put that aside for a second, kind of part 2. All right, let's talk a little bit about AI. One of the things, again, that we talked about in our meeting this morning was just the idea that there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers. That is no longer a debate because of 1033. Okay, so checkbox that one.
Yep.
Now, how you employ certain things, like everybody wants to talk about AI.
Can we hit that real quick again? Because I was like, you just like banged a gavel. It's like, because I don't think everybody knows us to not be the guys screaming fire in community banking. Well, everybody else is telling bankers, you're going to be a dinosaur. We're like, life's a long time, man. Let's see where things shake out. Okay.
Fire.
Okay. I just wanted to like note that you're basically calling the shot, saying like you do something or you're toast. Because I feel the same way. I'm just from the 150 years of banking experience.
So the rest of the time that we have here with Dave, I really want to talk about some things that you can do. Okay. These are simple things that don't cost a lot of money, things that you can take those baby steps. You've got time. All right. They're scared to death. The clock starts pretty damn quick for the big guys. And again, back to the little guy in nowhere, Texas is going, not really feeling this right now, but I'll guarantee you the big four are going to start feeling it pretty quick.
Yep.
Okay.
Opportunity for that.
All right. This AI piece of this thing, I want you to think about AI like Control F on a spreadsheet, right? I'm going to find the word, right? Alrighty. Except it can interpret what you really meant. Think of it that way. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to fill out this loan sheet here and find the name of the owner of the company and who the CFO is. And if I gave it enough documentation, can it tell me who the CFO is? Without, it's kind of like a Control F,
there you
right?
go, man. Yeah.
And so that's
exactly
what AI is to do. So when you're thinking about how do I employ AI into my bank, think of it of interpretive searches that cut down on your time. Well, okay, now Dave, really help us out here. When the use of the data inside of your bank, let's talk about 1033 and AI and where you guys fit in and how do you think this ought to work?
I wondered if you were going there. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay, yeah, I mean, with you mentioned like in your analogy for AI that it's about like the data you put into it. And so like at the beginning, it's what data do you have access to internally? And then what new data sources do you have? Because 1033 makes this available. I'm going to give you a cheat code to how 1033 is helping all the little guys right now. It's page 4 of the new regs right here. And the big banks have to implement it in 6 months. The next level down, 12, 18, 30, the smallest guys in 48, which means if you stay ahead of this, right, you can get access to the data of what's happening at the big guys first, right, before they have to get access to you, et cetera, right? You can be kind of strategic about this. But anytime you're talking about anything with data or AI, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? And we're in the business of taking transaction, for anybody that doesn't know us, we're in the business of looking at transaction data that you have on your core, you have coming from processors, and that you have coming over these open banking rails from the other guys, from Wells, from PNC, from Fifth Third, right? What's happening over there, or what's happening at HEB, right? On that account, because that's how it shows up, right? And build a profile of what's happening in the life of that customer and predict what they need next. So that you now, as a banker, have visibility into what they're doing everywhere, including outside of your bank, what they're doing at other banks. That's really important. And predicting what they need next so that you have takeaway opportunities and so that you're first in line, letting that customer know that you're the best to serve them for that next thing, right?
So as an example, if somebody is 4 years into an auto loan at Wells and they have a deposit account with you, you might want to know about that auto loan. Is that a fair analogy?
That's exactly right. Or even better, what happens when you start seeing the Pep Boys expenses go up? Right? So we go beyond just the other financial products they have. We go at the transaction level, and that's what you don't get from anybody else, right? So we're looking at, okay, we're seeing their auto repairs going up. Their auto payment hasn't existed for 2 years. Even without looking at a credit report, we know they don't have a car payment and haven't for a while. Their car repairs are going up. Their gas expenses are going up. And check this, they're buying things at secondhand stores. That tells me that they're in the market for a new car to them, but it's going to be a used car. This is a customer that is totally comfortable going with a used car, which is different than another customer who's shopping at upscale stores, right? Who has new expenses at the dealership, right? That's a different type of customer, right? And it's those types of things at the transaction level that we're profiling them on. And it's like where you don't donate your money signals a lot about you. And so if you see customers that are donating to the same organizations that you have a relationship with as a bank, don't you want to let them know about it? Right? Yeah, you let the whole community know about it. It's on this page of logos of all the civic organizations that you work with, right? But what about the one civic organization that matters to that one customer? That should pop up right there in the teller window. That should pop up when your banker picks up the phone. It should pop up in the email you send them, right? That way, that customer knows that you are the bank for them. Anyway, sorry, I got excited about
this. Out there is what is your geographic footprint? What's your geographic community, right? You may have a whole lot of veterans, or you may have a whole lot of this. But I can tell you one thing, there's something that's happening to almost all the banks out there, is that you may have been rural, but the metropolitan creep has now got you in a position to where, maybe when you find our client base.
Don't call me a metropolitan creep.
Yeah, you're
easy does it. Easy does it.
So as you look through this process and go, look, we might need to, every banker I talk to when they talk about changing core, is treasury. How do we get more involved in the commercial side? Mm-hmm. All right. Because the outskirts of the city keeps coming out further and further, it's affecting more and more of these bankers.
Positive opportunity.
Now, if you have that at the same time, 100 years, all we knew was, hey, look, there's 3 families that have all the money in town. The rest of the people live paycheck. Now, this dynamic completely has changed at the moment in time that somebody is giving you more information than Charlie Brown. You know more about your client base and your new client base than you ever have before, at the same time that there's a technology fundamental shift with 1033 happening. You can employ all these things at the same time, very cheap, very easily. It is not complicated. I don't give a shit what your consultant tells you. It is not that difficult. Okay. We'll help you find the way. That's what these videos are all about. It's helping you find the way.
That was awesome. The one other thing, and David, I want to get final thoughts from you, man, but I think when you look at this, it's that 3 or 4 year advantage. We can have everybody else's information and they can't have yours, right? It's pretty interesting as an opportunity. The other thing I think gets missed a lot, community bankers for so long looking at things geographically, right? In the technology world, we would talk about it as like shotgun marketing, right? Let's figure out what message and then let's throw the message at everybody, kind of like a billboard, right? Whereas the technology companies are going out, to David's point, and they're understanding the depths and the detail, really filtering out very specific groups of people and journeys, and then spending all of their marketing dollars reaching those 12 people so that they acquire those customers, right? And I think what you're outlining, David, is you bringing up that opportunity to help identify those customer segments so that the marketing dollars can either be exponentially applied where they should go, or lower the marketing dollar cost to the very small group of people it should be spent on, right? And then a community institution, it's such a difference.
And lastly, if you decided by looking at these outflows, which direction you wanted to move into as a BAS bank, we want to be really, really just a super pinpoint, surgeon approach to this thing. You know exactly what it is.
Right. I think the wealth analogy was a great one, right? I'd love to play there. But final thoughts, Dave, what did we not talk about that we should have?
Hit me.
Oh man, I think we hit all the big things. It's that as a banker, it's not time to panic, but it is time to act, right? The time for just waiting and looking and watching to see what's going to come of all of this, that's happened. We know exactly. We know where we're going, and it's not about politics, right? Whether or not you like the CFPB or not, right? I probably don't have to take a poll to get a guess, right? But it's happening. It is what it is. And as fun as it is to shoot shotguns, it's a really ineffective way to hit the right customer, right? And it's too expensive. We know that community banks aren't going to outcompete with Chase or Apple on marketing dollars, right? You're not going to have a Super Bowl ad. So don't take that shotgun approach, right? One of my favorite banks to work with use all of their targeted campaigns or by phone, because that works for their business. And so that they're only calling the right people, and they're doing great. They're doing incredible, right? And so it's not that you have to have this crazy hyper sophisticated thing that's going to take forever and is going to cost too much money, and you have to merge with 3 other banks in order to ever even think about it. No, you just have to like take a step back, survey the room, talk to the people who know what they're talking about, right? Who aren't full of shit and aren't here trying to sign you up to $1 million a year contract minimum to even think about anything, right? And figure out just from the data that you now have access to and the data you've already got in your core, okay, where can I spend my energy? Where can I spend my resources? And how does that impact my growth, right? How does that make me the bank I want to be in 15 years?
And I love your point about you could do a calling campaign to the right people if you knew who the 15 were and what the message was. And it's still very community focused, geographic, it's relationship banking. And even if the community that you might be calling on isn't in the geographic community, it's still a community of your customers. That's really cool.
One more thing. I really think this is so cool. The government has given you a head start. Okay, don't squander the head start.
Know it.
At the end of all this, 4 years from now, we're all running side by side. The guy who sat there in place for 4 years is a dumbass.
If you look at if somebody says the words "get ready to comply with 1033," you've already failed if you listen to that person, right? This is not something that is a compliance or we're going to comply with. This is an opportunity to get there before it kills us.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Cool.
Awesome.
Final thought for me. You know, I end all of these. Become an organ donor. If your religion allows it, become an organ donor. It's important. It saves lives. But boys, it is an absolute pleasure always to talk to you. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the roundup. Yeah. And yeah, thank you guys so much.
You bet, man. Enjoyed it. We'll catch you out there next week.
Appreciate you kind of clarifying all this for folks. It was pretty vague for a lot of people.
It's messy.
It's too much to read.
Well, we'll learn more, but good start.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Cool.
Thanks,
we'll see you soon. All righty. Peace.
We had a meeting this morning?
Yeah.
I wasn't there.
You were there. We talked about this as it's an opportunity. But all in all, it's a catastrophe. But in the end of it, if you look at this first opening salvo of this as an opportunity, it really is.
Okay.
It's like the regulators have said, we're going here, but we're going to give you a chance. We're only going to hurt the big guys for so long.
I agree.
To give you this opportunity, whether you're wise enough to see it or not. And the problem,
if you look at it as compliance, you're dead. If you wait around until you have to comply, you've lost.
God, that's the stupidest thing you could do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's picking up on this is the opportunity it is, and then take advantage of it. Now, but we've created a climate by certain players that is working against you.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to shake your own mindset. But getting to that mindset moment is up to them.
I keep telling everybody that the commercial banks have figured it out. I mean, it's like 1 in 6 that are like actively participating. Like, if that doesn't tell you, if you wanted one number to know what's up, there it is. You know,
that's right.
You're late.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so weird how like the whole world gets caught up on things like AI or whatever, and it's like it was completely oblivious to it, and then all of a sudden, that's the only thing to talk about, and it's just so taken out of context.
Yeah,
there's just not a. I guess people haven't heard of something until they've heard of something, you know? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's it's either a curse or a blessing for us. I don't know which one it is, but it's like, what's all the fuss, you know?
Well, the curses were way too far ahead on things usually.
I
was right just 5 years too early, and then I convinced myself I was wrong.
You should see my stock portfolio.
Yes.
I'm a winner if I would just like pause my trades.
At the time I'd sell it.